Welcome, everyone. Today, I welcome Riana Milne to our show. And let me tell you a little bit about her before we get started. Riana's credentials include life and dating coaching for the new docuseries Radical Dating, Finding Lasting Love Over 40, host of her former TV show Lessons in Life and Love, an educational speaker and a #1 best-selling author in the categories of couples therapy and women and spirituality. She has a newspaper advice column for over 25 newspapers, My Relationship Coach, and has appeared on every major network as well as written for top websites like Digital Romance, Your Tango, and eHarmony. Riana has been in private practice since 2000 in her company, Therapy by the Sea in Delray Beach, Florida. Sounds nice. Her website, rianamilne.com, and free app, My Relationship Coach, offers many videos and articles. Her 5-star rated books and the #1 bestseller, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve, and Live Beyond Your Dreams, Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose and Success, Address Life Transitions, Personal Transformation, and Relationships with Yourself and Others. Welcome.
Hi, Barbara. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, Riana, I'd like to talk about how trauma affects a person and their ability to either get into a quality relationship or experiencing somebody that has trauma in their life as a mate.
Okay, I think that the most important thing that we do is get back to what is trauma, because a lot of people think trauma is extremely severe, but it's not. It could be small occurrences over time. So what I often do with the listeners is I have them make a list to see if they have had what the research shows 9 out of 10 people do struggle in life and love due to past childhood or love trauma. So I'm going to go over the 10 trauma checklists that I developed for my clients to see if they're struggling in any of the areas. And then you're more aware if your date is struggling in these areas, you see. So there's a method to my madness here. So the best thing I suggest is take a piece of paper and write 3 long columns on it. In the first column, you would put me. The second column, you would put partner. And the third column, you would put parents. Because studies from Kaiser Permanente, who did the ACE study, Adverse Childhood Events, they came out with their checklist as well. Some of the things we have match, and I have a lot of other things since I work with kids and traumas in the schools, from grades kindergarten through college, as well as with my own clients in my therapy practice that I had now for 20 years. So let's start with a list. Now, when I go through this is not about shame or blame. So we don't want to blame your mom and dad in the way that they raised you. They did the best that they knew how. Kaiser says that trauma does go through the generations, and they did their study with over 17,000 people. And the other one is shame. We don't want to feel shame around this happened. We just want to look at it as a fact. You were young, you were innocent, there was nothing you could do about it at the time. But looking back as an adult, did these occur for you? Okay, so the first one is, did mom or dad have any addictions? Now, Kaiser studies mentions drugs and alcohol. While I'm also a licensed certified alcohol and drug addictions counselor, there's many more addictions that affect the family. Okay, so mind state, also sex addiction, meaning chronic cheating of one of the parents, porn, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, workaholism, TV watching, and gaming. So there's 11 addictions there that could have impacted your family. Second is verbal abuse. Now, yes, if you witness domestic violence, the yelling from mom and dad, but also if it comes towards you, the yelling, and there's other kinds of verbal abuse that I cite, which is stonewalling, like breaking silence and, not talking to your child if you're mad at them for hours or days. not hearing the words I love you or compliments, or hearing put downs and things like you're no good, you'll amount to nothing. These are all forms in my book of verbal abuse. Okay, third, emotional abuse and neglect. We know that the severe forms of that, but also in one of the studies I read, it also talked about if you were like a 9 to 5 mom and your kids came home at 3 o'clock, which we used to call latchkey kids, and had to do their homework. We thought if we checked in them, they're okay, but that also shows high anxiety and fear around neglect. Okay. Next one is any type of physical abuse or beatings, rape or molestation. The next one is abandonment. Now, I define 2 types of abandonment, and this was not on their study at all. So there's 2 types, fault and no fault. No fault abandonment would be if a parent happens to die early, if they leave the family to serve in war, or if they're leaving the family a lot to travel on the road for work. Well, this is no fault because this is how they support the family. This was my situation. I remember as a little girl asking, when's daddy coming home? My mom would be in disgust, I don't know. And she didn't. But what the family didn't know until my father was sick was he was CIA and FBI. So he couldn't tell us where he was, when he'd be home. And I do remember that. So when I was reading it in the studies, I'm like, okay, there's one of mine, right? Okay, so a fault abandonment would be if the biological parent is never in your life. If there's a divorce, they take off and they don't see you again. If they do see you, but they're not reliant, they break their promises, they're late consistently, those are forms of fault abandonment. The next one is if you were a person of adoption or foster care or needed to live in another parent's or family member's home or a friend's home because your mom and dad couldn't take care of you. Trauma number 7 is one of the most common, which is personal trauma. And this was not mentioned on their study either, but it's one of the most common I have seen in the past 20 years. This is when you didn't feel good enough. You didn't fit in. You might have been a heavier child or skinny and gawky. That was me. And you were teased because you were so skinny. You could have been diagnosed with a medical condition like asthma and weren't selected for the gym classes or part of the popular crowd, or for some reason you just didn't feel good enough, you didn't fit in, and this was a cause of much anxiety for you. You were bullied, any of those things. Trauma number 8 is sibling trauma. Your sibling could have bullied you. They could have been born with a medical condition, thus commanding more attention from mom and dad. Or the most common is they were the golden child. You perceived them to be the golden child, the favored one, because either they were smarter, more athletic, more pretty or handsome. For some reasons, your parents seemed to give them more compliments, more accolades, and more time and attention. Trauma number 9 was family trauma. Now, like their study I have, if a parent's incarcerated. I remember running a friendship group in the school for the girls that were the bullies. Ironically, it was called the friendship group. But 9 out of 10 of those girls had a parent incarcerated. And this was in a South Jersey school. So I knew that that was a source of trauma for these kids, right? Okay. If you felt you grew up in lack, poverty, in a dangerous neighborhood, you were part of a military family where those families move every 2 to 4 years and you had to be reacclimated into the school again. If you lost your home during the mortgage crises, those are forms of family trauma. Now, I moved from a longer list, a later list, community trauma into that category, because especially here in the US, we're seeing much of this in our school shootings and community mass murders, right? So of course, this is devastating on adults. Can you imagine little kids and the fear factor that they adopt? Also, our devastations from all Mother Nature, floods, fires, hurricanes, volcanoes, mudslides. Again, very hard for a parent to deal with. Can you imagine the children who's part of this catastrophe? And then trauma number 10 is mental health illness in mom or dad. Now, my generation, our parents didn't go to counselors. So we have to kind of guess, did they have something going on? The 2 most difficult is bipolar and borderline. Bipolar is manic depressive. So manic, a lot of people think that's a high and happy one, right? Well, it could be, but most often it is tied to like a gambling spree, spending spree, eating binge. So it's not usually good. And depression can come out as anger, checking out emotionally, or extreme fatigue. And then borderline, I best describe that as when they're good, they're great. So when they're bad, they're horrid. And you never know what mood you're going to get. Borderlines explode with temper over the littlest things that nobody else would get upset about. So these children grow up always walking on eggshells and worrying if they're going to upset mom or dad. So these are the 10 childhood traumas in my childhood trauma checklist that I have my clients look at. And then we dive deep and heal the trauma piece first. My singles, before they go out dating, we have to get to the bottom of this, make them feel like a successful single. Then they go out with their life in order. So my programs are half life coaching and half love coaching, teaching them the exact skills that they need to attract emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious love. And at the same time, equally important, avoid partners that are toxic and can bring much heartache into their life.
Wonderful. Wow, that's a heck of a list and very complete. And yeah, a lot of people, I'm sure there are things on that list that spoke to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. So
how does this come out? And
yeah,
would you like to know how they come out? Like what happens as an adult? Okay.
Yes.
There's something that we call emotional triggers. People are triggered by things that are still left in the psyche, the body. Trauma stays stored in the brain and the body. I am a certified clinical trauma professional as well as a coach and licensed mental health counselor. So I wear the 3 hats to make sure that the trauma is gone from my clients before they go out dating, so they are not triggered and they're very aware. So how this manifests, how this shows up is in different personality traits. There's like 24 different combinations that I have named, so I'll just go into a couple. Let's talk about jealousy. You're dating someone, everything seems great in the beginning, then they get really jealous. Where's that coming from? That's from trauma number 7, sometimes trauma number 2. Hearing you're not good enough, you're not going to amount to anything. The trauma number 7, where you don't feel good enough. Even though as an adult, you might have grown to be very pretty or very handsome, you know, your little psyche, your little kid psyche is not yet healed. So that's where control comes, when you just don't feel good enough. Let's talk about that charming manipulator, which can also be a sociopath. Where does that come from? Well, a sociopath has usually 9 or 10 of the traumas, and the severity level, which I also rate from 1 to 10, are normally 9 and 10, usually 10s. So very severe all the way across the board. A sociopath, by definition, easy to remember, uses people for pleasure or profit. And they don't ever apologize, and they're always blaming you. It's always your fault. Okay. So the big buzzword was, I had a narcissist in my life, and I said, you probably had a sociopath. Okay. Now the psychopath is a sociopath who kills. You understand that definition. And the narcissist is, yes, all about them. They're often blaming. They do have signs of empathy, though. They're pure narcissists. Now, there's 2 types. There's healthy narcissists and there's malignant narcissists. The malignant narcissist is also normally the sociopath. Okay. The healthy narcissist is someone that grows up with severe trauma, but yet does good in the world. And they are often self-focused to succeed. Okay, so in the definitions of the research, you know, like Steve Jobs, you know, Tiger Woods had severe childhood trauma, grew up to be an excellent golfer, right? But has had trouble along the way. So, you know, these are signs of that. So another way that the charm and the manipulator also, let's say it was a little boy and at home he was often battered and told he's not good enough. And then he would go in and have a female teacher and start schmoozing her for better grades and to get a little love and attention from this female. So this is a pattern they learned as a survival tool. These are coping mechanisms. So at least they felt love at school. Or it could be someone with a great sense of humor. They use comedy to get friends. Now, if I have done a study in my schooling on comedians, and they all have come from childhood trauma, and they develop this sense of humor. So when one of my people says, oh, I want someone with a great sense of humor, I'm like, watch out. A little bit is good, too much, there's signs there. So what's really important, and what I teach in my coaching, is there's a set of about 23 questions that my clients ask, not interview style, just in general conversation, but they can determine if there's childhood trauma and if it's healed or not. Now, like the study says, 90% of us have something. Have we healed it? Have we learned from it? Here's an example. I have one lady that went out on a date. Things were going great. He was very charming. He asked her, for what she'd like to drink, would she like something to eat. Things were going well. So yeah, she asked one of the first questions I have my clients ask. So, and he was an older person, right? So she says, so tell me about your parents. Are they still living? Well, my father died. He was a real son of a bitch, but we became friends later in life. When he got older, he kind of eased up on me. He was from the military, and we used to go fishing a lot. So at least those last days were pretty good. Now that's a sign of healing, right? So when it comes to mother, she's still living. She is a nightmare. I grew up, she was an alcoholic her whole life. If I didn't have to go visit her, I wouldn't. Now this describes in my book, I named 14 toxic personality types, and this one I call a mother hater. If a man hates his mother and is never healed from childhood trauma regarding or around a mother figure, he is never going to love and respect his lady. Now, here's the tricky part. These guys will really go after a woman, romance, constant texting, be very charming, because they really do want love, right? But they're not healed from their trauma. So they want love in the worst way from a woman. Now, if they happen to have a woman, this is also the guy that will keep getting and wanting attraction from other women, for females to give him love and attention because the mother did not. So there's all kinds of warning signs around people whose trauma has not healed. Now, if he were to say, okay, well, she was drinking, but by the time I was 9, she got sober, and boy, she was a whole different person. Unfortunately, my mom is sick. I do go to see her a few times a week at the nursing home. Thank God the alcohol stopped when I was a young kid. So, there's really signs. It's amazing what people tell you when these questions, and they're very conversational, right? So this is how my people are very, very empowered when they go out and dating. And online dating is one of the avenues that they will do, but there's many other ways that I educate them to meet people in various other ways. So another common one, especially for women, is people pleasing. So why do women do this? Well, let's give the scenario. When she was a little girl, the alcoholic mom was angry and hungover in the morning, miserable. She would always yell. So this girl learned to do everything right to help mom out so that she wouldn't be yelled and screamed at before she went to school. So she'd get her siblings up, ready, pack the lunches, get them off to the bus. So she was used to people pleasing, and that's the way she could get love and peace. Again, the coping mechanism for her. So this is often the couple that I will have coming in, and the woman will say, I do everything for my kids and my husband. They do nothing for me. I never see love from them. So she's overdoing because this was her normal, right? These coping mechanisms become very normalized for them because they don't know anything else. So I kind of have to reparent them and help them with boundaries and new communication styles. That is just someone who gives, and then she's exhausted and resentful and angry, and then she's not connected to her husband who wants more sex, and then this is the vicious cycle. I don't feel love, so why should I give you love? And he goes, but I do this, and this, and to her it still doesn't feel like enough. Okay. I also work with a lot of very successful business women, and they can't, but they struggle in love. And what we often see is same person, different face. In other words, the same personality type, guy 1, then guy 2, then guy 3. And they're like, why does this keep happening to me? Couple of things. The psyche is drawn to what is normalized and what it knows. So chemistry, which is how we were taught to fall in love by our romantic fairy tales, like Sleeping Beauty, kiss the handsome prince, and you're happily ever after. Well, that is not true. And it couldn't be further truth. Yes, you have to be attracted. You have to say, can I see myself making love to this person? Yes. But that severe, like mad chemical attraction is often a sign of trouble. And you better know the other parts that you have to look for other than just falling in love with the chemistry. So it will often be the same type of person of the opposite sex parents. So for ladies, the type of father that you had. So that is very difficult. You have to be careful around the whole charm in the beginning. And then the studies show that these relationships can go toxic from month 4 to month 9, or when there is a major life change, like moving in together, getting engaged, getting married, or having a child. During those 4 transitions is when I see a lot of the people start struggling because this person can't hold it together anymore, right? And then they keep wanting to get back to the beginning. But I want what we had in the beginning. Yes. So the successful women, right? They mostly had trauma number 7, so they learned to be very good in school and feel a lot of self-esteem and self-worth around their businesses. And they learn to control their environment at their business, which makes them successful. The problem is, then they start controlling their partner. Now, these rules are the same, whether you're younger, older, male, female, straight, or LGBT, and I work with all these populations. So, if you are that successful business person and you are coming home and controlling that partner, especially the dynamic of women to the male partner, because of male ego and caveman brain, and we're going back more and into other areas of science in the brain, that is not going to be taken for very long, right? And then the toxic cycle begins.
Wow.
It's a lot of information, but I love what I do because it's fascinating, and my studies never stop. I've been doing research on this topic since I brought in dynamics to help the children in the schools. I mean, I had kids meditating to calm their trauma in 2003 and 4, when that was not even heard of. That was strange. Miss Riana's relaxation room, they would come and they go back to school, to the classroom all chilled out. And the teachers are, what are you doing back there? So there's different things you do to help heal the body from the trauma. Then we have to do a lot of mindset work, making these unconscious emotional triggers consciously aware, and then working on them to change the habitual pattern, which was your normal. Okay. And this even comes out, my first degree from Penn State's in speech communications. So when I have a couple, this is a great example too, around communication. I'm from Philadelphia, and I had a lot of South Philly girlfriends, Italian girlfriends, and they grew up in the households where the parents were screaming and yelling back and forth, but that was just normal. And this couple came in to me, and she was a South Philly woman, and her husband was calm Midwestern. So he's there, well, she's yelling at me all the time. She goes, what are you talking about? I don't yell at you. Going into her normal phase of communication. He goes, see? And I said, well, do you feel you're talking calm like this? And she goes, no. And I said, this is what he grew up with. This is what he's used to. This was his normal, you see. So this is where communication styles have to be also retaught. And it's a practicing system. So once they get all the facts and all the knowledge is power, but then you have to practice it. So that's why my VIP programs are 6 months. And then I offer 90-day programs as well. But yeah, it's a very individualized program depending what is coming to me from the single or the couple to work on.
Wow, very nice. I mean, you've touched on so many things that are so relevant, and most people ignore the signs, the behaviors. People put up with a lot Um, I
Yes.
certainly can relate to many of the things that you've spoken about, both in my personal life as well as in other people that I know. And
Hmm.
it's definitely something that not everybody wants to talk about, but it definitely affects relationships.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. And the research shows people of trauma attract people of trauma. So initially, these are very passionate, whirlwind, high attention relationships. So
sure.
they fall in love quickly and hard, and the sex is passionate. They think, wow, I finally got exactly what I wanted. And then when they start struggling, there's 4 to 9 months in, they're like, what happened? And then you can either see some of the addictions coming out, like the over drinking or, saying things and not following through. There's all different kinds of dynamics that show up. So you really have to date with knowledge. Knowledge is power in the dating world. Online, you have to be very careful. There's a lot of people that lie. Let me tell you, ladies, if you're in lie, do not lie about your age. And if you meet a man that does, this is a basic fact of life. A, if he doesn't like you at the age you are, you don't want him anyway. And B, if he lies about something this simple, he's lying about other things. And I don't care that says, oh, they can't change the age. Bull. You can change the age. Okay, so you be honest, you be real, you be authentic. I do help my clients write their profiles. They go from horrible partners to amazing, accomplished, attractive, spiritually based people. That's what they learn. It is a spiritual based component to this program for the healing. And they look for different things, but their profile, we're not looking for hundreds of people. We were looking for a few right people for them to date. And it becomes profoundly clear the differences. So, yeah, there's a lot to learn on online dating to do it well and to meet fabulous people. I think it's a great way to meet people. However, you have to be very cautious. You never have anyone pick you up at your house if they don't give you a last name when they're asked to call you. Sorry, what do they have to hide? You don't want to be, because then they start questioning you. You're really going to tell all your life history to a guy named Mark that you don't even know a last name? No, don't do it. Yeah, again, if they're not someone that can step up, yes, my name is this. Feel free to Google me. They have nothing to hide. Okay, so we're looking for a few good ones, not the masses. And we really trigger and tailor it down to what we want. We define what we want. We know exactly what we're looking for, and we don't settle for less.
Great. So it sounds like once somebody addresses their personal trauma,
Mm-hmm.
that there is hope out there for them, that they can have success in finding a
Oh,
quality mate.
total transformation. Total. I just got an email from one of my VIP diamonds yesterday. Riana just wanted to tell I'm in a magnificent relationship. She was in a very toxic marriage. I helped her get through that with her divorce. She had a little son. She goes, he treats me like a queen. We're traveling together. He's generous. He's good with my son. I said, can I add this to your testimonial? So they write me beautiful testimonials at the end. You can all read them on rianamilne.com, my website. And there are total transformations. Total. Now, you mentioned that the Radical Dating TV show. My client, Scott, was the only gay male on the show. There were 3 straight females, 1 straight male, 1 gay male. I was assigned Scott because he had both childhood trauma and adult trauma, as a matter of fact. And sadly, his partner died right in front of him by a car. They were together 8 years. So during the interviews, when we were meeting the contestants and they were meeting the 5 coaches, they were like, what do you like about dating, or what do you feel about dating? He goes, well, I hate dating. The thing I hate about dating is dating itself. And I'm like, wow, Scott's got his hands full. But then I learned he had trauma, and they're like, Riana, you're the only specialist that can help him get beyond this. So of the 5 pairings, coaching clients, he was the first one to get a date, the first one to have his date stick, and has been with this partner for over 3 years.
Wow.
So it's so exciting to see, and his little video of testimonials on my website as well. So it doesn't matter who that person is in front of me. We get to the bottom of what's going on, why it happened, look at it in a different way, spiritually learn to find some forgiveness around it, heal, then move forward. And these people totally transform and find amazing partners. And when there is bumps in the road, we expect that because you're not going to see eye to eye on everything. But now they have the communication skills and the knowledge just to apologize. I'm sorry, I was triggered by that. Or they have the ability to talk with love, compassion, and empathy towards their partners' childhood wounds if something comes up from there. So it's a whole different understanding. You know, I wish I'd learned this years ago before my mistakes, you know, but what had really happened with me is I was married to a man I really, really adored, and he had a whole secret life, which I termed Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll is, you know, if you know the movie or the show, and if you've seen it, you should watch it again with this information, all this information. He was very popular, very handsome, very charming. All the women wanted to be with him. He was wealthy. And then Mr. Hyde, well named, is the hidden personality type. So at night he'd go off to the whorehouses and then end up murdering a lot of the women he was with. So two different personality types, and the one is hidden. And, you know, when I was breaking up with this person and I annulled the marriage, I stood up as pro se, my own attorney, and won the case, which is very rare to win an annulment. But he's there, why do I sabotage everything I love? I love you. I knew it was wrong. I couldn't stop myself. I don't know what's wrong with me. I said, but I'm going to figure it out. And he had 10 of the 10 traumas and 9 to 10 severity levels. And my heart like melted for him because I could only imagine him as a child putting up with all of that and then still suffering as an adult. So then as I got this knowledge, I was seeing a lot of my clients struggling with this. Of course, I saw my school students studying, you know, struggling with trauma at home, and it all just came together. And then I just, like a mad woman, was getting the research out of like hundreds of books. And then that's how I put together my coaching programs. So my workbook's 150 pages from research, and then my book, Live Beyond Your Dreams and Love Beyond Your Dreams, are part of this program.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense. It's amazing. You definitely found your niche.
Yeah.
And I commend you for all the hard work you've done.
Thank you.
And the help that you've provided for many people.
I love what I do, you know, and you can see the pain in the writing. You know, people write me, I say, tell me your story if they're applying to meet with me. And it comes out, I've got goosebumps now, and I'm already in the first hour that they meet with me, putting the puzzle pieces together like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Why didn't I see this before? So we define what's going on in the first hour. And then, you know, if they choose to work with me, we dive deep into healing all of that and changing the entire dynamics, then get them out dating. And they're feeling amazing about themselves. They're totally consciously aware. They are now evolved, which means being their highest and their best self, and very consciously aware when they're dating. They don't care how cute someone is. They know yes or no. And we call them the first date's often one and done if they do not qualify for that second date, or they would, you know, proceed on to the second and the third date, but still questioning and seeing if this is a life match, you know, that their personality matches with their other personality. So they're very consciously aware when they date. It's a whole different dynamic. It's a whole different way of being in the dating world.
Wow.
Yeah.
This has been so informative, and I really appreciate your information and sharing this with our audience.
Sure.
I mean,
you know, it's my passion to get this out to the world, right? Because it's so new, it's so cutting edge. I do have that podcast, Lessons in Life and Love. I am on Alexa, the Daily Lessons in Life and Love. I have a free app, Lessons in Life and Love on the go. So I try to give as much free information as I can. And then those that really want to work with me one-on-one, just reach out to me at rianamilne.com. And there is a free ebook. It's at havetheloveyoudeserve.com. Again, that's havetheloveyoudeserve.com. It goes a little bit deeper into the traumas, and it will give you that checklist if you couldn't write it down at the time you were listening to this. So check that out. And then I have free book chapter downloads right on my homepage at rianamilne.com. You get the first 50 or 60 pages of each of my books. So do take advantage of the free resources that I offer to you all. And Barbara, I really thank you for helping me get the message out. This is part of when you can take your pain and make it your purpose, then that's what work should be, right? That's the beauty of it. And I just want to encourage your listeners as a final thought that it's time to have that life you desire and definitely to attract and have the love that you deserve. Don't wait. My oldest client was 73. He's now with a wonderful lady. He's 78. They're together 5 years now. She's 73. He keeps sending me pictures from their cruise or from White Night of them dancing, and I'm like, it's great that I could help Bob, but at the same time, don't wait till you're 73. Do it now before so you can enjoy your life.
That's amazing. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't wait. Thank you so much for your generosity of the free gifts. We really appreciate that. And I truly appreciate having this conversation with you and you giving us your time and your knowledge.
Thank you. I do offer, if anyone wants to meet with me, it's only $47. I just put a very nominal fee on there. It's a $500 offer. So that's right on my website as well. And that just kind of says it's like a donation in a way for an hour of my time. But we will get to the bottom of your issue. I will give you an hour, and there's several assessments that you'll do, and I will review them, and we will come together and meet, and you will learn a whole lot in that first hour.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate this, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate all the information that you've shared, and hopefully they'll investigate your services.
Okay, thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
You
Thank
too.
you so much. Bye-bye.